A lot of these farms, they don't make a lot of money, but it's a way of life, and they love their way of life, and they love that.
For me, it's going to cost me around $150,000 a year.
$150,000?
Yeah, roughly 50% of my revenue.
1 in every 4 rows of soybeans in every field in the entire United States of America has to go abroad.
The state of American agriculture is facing an unimaginable disaster. From the withered cornfields in Iowa to the yellowing soybeans in Illinois, crops are dying slowly. Millions of tons of food are being wasted, either left unharvested or with no buyers, while grocery store prices continue to rise day by day. It's a perplexing paradox. While American farmers are watching their produce perish, the country still imports food from other nations. Why are crops grown in America being wasted when consumers are paying high prices for imported goods? How is it that bountiful fields cannot meet the demands of the country? In this video, we'll explore the underlying reasons behind this issue and whether American agriculture is truly on the brink of collapse. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Comment 1 if you agree with this situation, 0 if you disagree. Don't forget to like, share the video, and leave a subscription in support. Now let's dive into this story. Amid the challenges facing American agriculture, corn has become one of the hardest hit crops. States like Nebraska and Iowa, traditionally known for their vast cornfields, are now grappling with crop destruction caused by fungal diseases, climate change, and rising production costs. Despite farmers' best efforts to maintain yields, these external factors are preventing them from continuing their operations. As a result, cornfields are being abandoned, wasting resources and contributing to a decline in the quantity and quality of American agricultural output. Corn in states like Nebraska and Iowa is being ravaged by fungal diseases, reducing the crop's yield and quality. Harsh climatic conditions, including droughts and erratic rainfall, have made the soil less fertile and no longer suitable for corn cultivation. Moreover, the skyrocketing production costs, from purchasing seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, to labor costs, have caused some farmers to abandon their fields because they cannot generate enough profit to sustain production. Meanwhile, corn prices are plummeting, forcing many grain storage facilities to limit their intake. This creates a vicious cycle where farmers lose the incentive to grow corn, while storage facilities and processors are unable to purchase at a reasonable price. This situation is affecting not only farmers but also industries like food processing and animal feed production, where corn serves as a vital ingredient. This issue is not only impacting American agriculture, but also having wide-reaching consequences for the global market. As U.S. corn struggles, countries like Brazil and Argentina are seizing the opportunity to boost exports of high-quality corn. Corn from these countries is gradually taking over international markets, causing U.S. corn to lose market share, particularly in developing countries where price is a significant factor in sourcing decisions. Moreover, U.S. corn is unable to compete on price and quality compared to corn from other nations. This has created a gap in the market, while U.S. corn cannot meet the demand, especially in key export regions like China and Mexico. As a result, U.S. corn producers are facing revenue losses, and the food processing, animal feed, and ethanol production industries are under significant pressure due to supply shortages. With the shortage of corn, industries such as food processing, animal feed production, and ethanol production cannot maintain stable operations. Food processors must find alternative sources of raw materials or reduce output, leading to higher product prices that directly affect consumers. Additionally, the animal feed industry is being heavily impacted as corn is no longer sufficient to supply livestock and poultry farms. The ethanol industry, which relies heavily on corn as a primary raw material, is also unable to maintain its production efficiency due to the corn shortage. As a result, ethanol output is declining, undermining the renewable energy goals set by the U.S. government in recent years. The abandonment of cornfields serves as a wake-up call for the entire U.S. agricultural sector. One of the key lessons is the need to innovate farming methods, incorporating technology and scientific research to improve crop yields and quality. Developing drought-resistant and pest-resistant corn varieties could help mitigate the negative impacts of climate change and natural factors. Additionally, Investment in agricultural infrastructure, such as storage facilities and distribution systems, is essential to minimize waste. Without an efficient transportation and storage system, even bumper harvests could go to waste. Moreover, government support policies, such as subsidies for farmers, tax relief, and reduced production costs, could help farmers overcome challenges and restore production. The government should also consider measures to protect the agriculture sector from global market fluctuations, such as implementing policies that support exports and reduce risks from dependency on a limited number of export markets. Ultimately, corn is not just a crop. It is a vital component of the American economy. The abandonment of cornfields highlights that the sustainability of agriculture lies not only in production, but also in maintaining competitiveness, improving technology, and building a robust support system to handle environmental and global market challenges. Soybeans, one of America's key agricultural products, are currently facing a significant decline in exports and negative impacts on the domestic processing industry. Despite the U.S. being one of the largest soybean exporters in the world for many years, this year's soybean exports have only reached about 3 million tons, a concerningly low figure. This decline is largely due to decreasing demand from Asia, the primary consumer of soybeans. Soybean producers are facing numerous challenges, from harvesting to export, as they struggle to find stable markets for their products. The main reason for the drop in U.S. soybean exports is the decline in demand from Asian countries, particularly China. China, a massive consumer of soybeans, has begun reducing its purchases from the U.S., instead seeking supplies from other countries like Brazil and Argentina. This shift has caused U.S. soybean producers to lose the ability to maintain export contracts as they did before, and they are unable to quickly adjust and find alternative markets. This loss has created a vicious cycle where soybean storage facilities are filled to the brim with unsold products. As soybean stocks grow, their quality deteriorates over time due to prolonged storage. Unconsumed soybeans lose their freshness, becoming more prone to mold or bacterial contamination, which reduces their commercial value. When soybeans are stored too long in warehouses without being sold, their quality decreases significantly. Over time, soybeans can lose their nutritional value and become unsuitable for export or processing. This not only reduces profits for farmers and producers, but also causes significant losses for the food processing industry, where soybeans are used in the production of cooking oil, animal feed, and many other products. Due to this situation, export contracts between producers and international partners are frequently canceled. This disruption not only affects global supply chains, but also creates a significant hole in the budgets of processing and export companies, making it difficult for them to maintain operations and achieve profitability. One of the industries most heavily impacted by the decline in soybean exports is the processing industry. Soybean processing plants, which are a vital link in the supply chain, are now facing reduced production levels. With an unstable and declining supply of soybeans, these processing plants can no longer maintain their productivity and efficiency. Changes in the supply chain are also forcing companies to scale down production, cut jobs, or search for alternative raw materials, which further destabilizes the U.S. agricultural economy. Additionally, processing plants are struggling to find stable markets for their products. When major export markets like China reduce purchases, processed soybean products, including soybean oil, animal feed, and other food ingredients, face difficulty in finding consumers. This leads to high inventory levels and increased storage costs, which diminish the competitiveness of U.S. products in the international market. The reduction in soybean exports and its negative impacts serve as a stark lesson for U.S. agriculture. To address the decline in demand from international markets, U.S. agriculture must enhance research and development efforts to create high-quality soybean varieties that can withstand changing climate conditions and meet the needs of new markets. Moreover, diversifying export markets is crucial. The U.S. needs to expand soybean exports to new countries and not rely solely on one market. The government should also support producers in developing more effective international market outreach strategies, helping them minimize the effects of demand fluctuations and improve their competitiveness. Within the processing industry, improving production processes and ensuring soybean quality will help maintain supply and production stability. Companies need to invest in modern processing technology to minimize quality losses during storage and processing. In conclusion, soybeans are one of the most important crops in U.S. agriculture, and the decline in exports is causing major challenges for both the processing and export industries. However, with proper supportive policies and innovation in production methods, U.S. agriculture can overcome these difficulties and maintain its competitive position in the global market. Grapes, one of the most important fruits for the U.S. wine industry, are currently facing significant challenges. The decline in the wine market has directly impacted the demand for grapes, leading to fewer purchasing contracts and a shortage of high-quality grape supply. Additionally, delays in harvest and management issues have caused a large portion of grapes to be left on the vines and rot, creating a disaster for grape production. These difficulties not only affect grape producers, but also have far-reaching consequences for the U.S. economy and the future of American agriculture. One of the main factors contributing to the struggles of grape production is the decline in demand from the wine market. In recent years, wine consumption, particularly from large producers, has dropped significantly. Wineries have reduced the number of orders, cutting back on grape purchasing contracts, which has resulted in farmers being unable to sell their products at reasonable prices. This not only reduces revenue for farmers, but also leads to high inventory levels and unsold products. The decrease in demand from wineries has also caused many vineyards to be unable to maintain their original production scale. Farmers have been forced to reduce the acreage of vineyards and cut back on labor, which negatively impacts both productivity and product quality in the long term. This situation could lead to instability in the U.S. grape and wine industries. One of the most serious factors causing difficulties in the grape industry is delays in harvest. Grapes are a crop that requires harvesting at the right time to ensure quality. However, when harvesting is delayed due to labor shortages, transportation issues, or unusual weather changes, the grapes begin to rot on the vines. Vineyards that cannot harvest on time face significant losses when the grapes cannot be consumed, leading to large amounts of waste. The rotting of grapes not only reduces the value of the product, but also creates losses across the supply chain, from farmers to processors. This situation affects the profits of farmers, and also makes it difficult for food and wine processors to maintain operations. As wineries reduce their demand and vineyards can no longer maintain their previous production levels, some vineyards are forced to reduce their acreage and workforce. This is a significant shift in the industry, as vineyards no longer have enough labor to care for the crops and harvest the grapes at the proper time. This not only affects productivity, but also creates long-term negative impacts on grape quality. Vineyards that lack enough workers to harvest grapes on time will face situations where grapes are left to rot on the vines, unable to be used. Additionally, reducing vineyard acreage also means reduced production in the coming years, decreasing the U.S. grape industry's ability to compete in international markets. The decline in the wine market and delays in grape harvest reflect the urgent need for reforms in U.S. agriculture. To cope with these challenges, grape producers need to improve their harvest management and grape preservation techniques. The adoption of modern technology in vineyard management, such as using sensors to monitor fruit ripeness and automating the harvesting process, can help minimize delays and losses during harvest. Furthermore, the wine and grape industry needs to find ways to diversify products and expand consumer markets. Producers can explore developing new wine products or seek out new international markets to grow. At the same time, the government and organizations should support farmers through income protection programs, minimizing risks from market fluctuations and ensuring stability in the agricultural sector. Lastly, U.S. agriculture must focus on developing new grape varieties that are more resilient to harsh climate conditions, helping to reduce dependence on weather factors in production. By doing so, the grape industry can maintain stable production and quality while enhancing competitiveness in international markets. Share your thoughts. Comment 1 if you agree with the challenges the grape industry is facing, or 0 if you disagree. Don't forget to like, share, and leave a subscription to support us. Now let's continue following the next developments in this story. Strawberries, one of the most beloved fruits both for everyday consumption and in the food processing industry, are facing significant difficulties. The labor shortage during strawberry harvest season has led to severe crop losses, creating irreversible damage to the U.S. agricultural sector. Additionally, the shortage of strawberries has forced food processors to alter production recipes and search for alternative ingredients, creating a substantial impact on both the economy and the fruit market. Strawberries are a crop that requires timely and continuous harvesting to ensure quality. However, this season, U.S. agriculture is grappling with a severe labor shortage. Farmers are unable to find enough workers to harvest strawberries at the right time, resulting in strawberries being left on the fields, rotting, and becoming unsellable. This situation has caused significant losses for producers, as they not only lose income from the strawberries but also face inefficient harvest and storage costs. Labor shortages in U.S. agriculture have been a persistent issue for many years, but this year the situation has become even more severe. Strawberries, a fruit that requires quick harvesting, cannot afford to wait too long. When the harvest is delayed, the quality of the fruit deteriorates, increasing losses for farmers and food processors. The shortage of fresh strawberries has caused food processing industries to face significant changes. Food manufacturers, especially in the beverage, jam, candy, and canned goods sectors, have had to adjust their production formulas to replace strawberries. These substitute products may not match the quality and distinct flavor of fresh strawberries, leading to a reduction in the value of the processed goods. Furthermore, the shortage of strawberries has increased production costs for food processors, as they must find replacement ingredients, sometimes at higher prices. This not only reduces the profit margins for processors, but may also impact the retail price of the final products, causing consumers to bear the higher costs. As the U.S. market faces a domestic strawberry shortage, food manufacturers have begun sourcing supplies from abroad. Cheaper fruits, such as imported strawberries from Mexico and other countries, have begun filling the gap in the market. These imported products not only cost less, but also meet domestic consumption demands more easily. Strawberries imported from countries like Mexico, Spain, and Chile are gradually replacing U.S. products in stores and food processing facilities. Although imported strawberries may be cheaper, their quality is sometimes inconsistent compared to fresh U.S. strawberries, raising concerns about the impact on the reputation of processed products made from strawberries. The strawberry crop loss and the labor shortage in agriculture serve as a wake-up call for the need for reform in labor resource management and production structures. To prevent similar situations in the future, the agricultural industry must adopt high-tech solutions to automate the harvesting process, reducing reliance on manual labor. Using technologies such as automated sensors and harvesting robots could help speed up the harvest and minimize losses. Moreover, the food processing industry needs to strengthen its ability to respond to fluctuations in supply. Producers should look for alternative ingredients that are of similar quality to strawberries and develop more flexible processing formulas, ensuring product quality is maintained without negatively affecting the consumer experience. Additionally, the government must implement measures to support farmers in addressing the labor shortage, such as promoting seasonal labor recruitment programs, improving working conditions in agriculture, and providing subsidies for affected areas. Leafy greens, including lettuce, spinach, and other leafy vegetables, are a crucial component of daily diets in the U.S. However, the leafy green production industry is facing severe challenges due to labor shortages and transportation issues. The lack of labor in agriculture and rising transportation costs have led to delays in delivering fresh greens to consumers, causing significant losses for the agricultural sector and negatively impacting the food supply chain. One of the main reasons leafy greens fail to reach warehouses and retail stores on time is the labor shortage in agriculture. While lettuce and spinach can be harvested quickly, they require a large workforce for cutting, packaging, and transportation to distribution areas. However, due to a critical shortage of workers during the harvest season, farmers are unable to harvest on time, leaving the greens in the fields to rot, rendering them unsellable. This results in significant losses for producers, who not only lose income from the crops, but also incur costs from inefficient harvest and storage methods. In addition to labor issues, transportation costs have also surged due to a shortage of truck drivers and fuel supply chain disruptions. As transportation costs rise, many producers and distributors are unable to maintain competitive pricing and are forced to reduce production scales or alter transportation methods. This creates a broken supply chain, preventing leafy greens from reaching consumers in a timely manner, thereby increasing losses for both producers and consumers. When greens are not harvested at the right time, the consequences are immediate. They wilt right in the fields. Lettuce and spinach have very short harvest windows, and if not picked on time, they lose their freshness and become unusable. Fields full of potential produce become worthless because there are no workers to harvest them, or they cannot be transported quickly enough to processors or retailers. The wilting of greens in the fields is not only a loss for farmers, but also a financial blow to the U.S. agricultural sector. A decrease in leafy green production means a shortage of fresh food supplies, making it difficult for food processors and distributors to maintain production. When domestic supplies of leafy greens fall short, food distributors are forced to scale down operations and seek alternative sources from abroad. Imported leafy greens from countries like Mexico, Spain, and others are gradually filling the gap in the market. These imported products can meet domestic demand at a lower cost, but the quality is sometimes inconsistent compared to fresh U.S. greens, which lowers the value of products and the quality of meals for consumers. As imported greens replace U.S.-grown products, the domestic agricultural sector not only suffers in revenue, but also struggles to maintain brand reputation and consumer trust in domestic produce. If this situation persists, it could lead to a severe decline in domestic leafy green production and an increased reliance on foreign supply. The labor shortage and transportation disruptions highlight the urgent need for improvements in the agricultural system and food supply chain. One crucial lesson is that the agricultural industry needs to accelerate the adoption of technology and automation in harvesting and packaging processes. Technologies like automated harvesting machines or smart transportation tracking systems can reduce dependence on manual labor and ensure that leafy greens reach consumers on time. Furthermore, producers and distributors need to build a more flexible supply chain system capable of quickly adapting to changes in demand and transportation conditions. Diverse transportation methods, such as using smaller vehicles and establishing storage facilities closer to consumption areas, can help reduce losses and improve distribution efficiency. The government also needs to support farmers and the agricultural industry through policies that address seasonal labor shortages, reduce transportation cost burdens, and provide training and financial support programs for farmers to enhance productivity and product quality. Almonds, one of the most valuable nuts in the U.S. agricultural sector, are currently facing a series of serious challenges. While almonds were once considered a major export product for the U.S., the recent decline in demand from international markets has led to a severe overproduction issue. Moreover, many almond orchards have been abandoned due to a lack of market demand, resulting in significant losses for farmers and the U.S. agricultural industry. These impacts are not only creating immediate difficulties, but also pose long-term consequences for the almond production sector. Almonds have long been a key export product for the U.S., particularly to countries like China and India. However, in recent times, the demand for almonds from international markets has significantly decreased, causing a surplus of almonds in the U.S. Farmers have struggled to sell their harvest, leading to excess inventory and storage. When almonds are neither exported nor consumed domestically, this surplus not only reduces the value of the product, but also puts significant pressure on the domestic market. With almond production continuing to exceed demand and no viable consumption solution, farmers are finding it difficult to maintain operations. Some almond orchards have been abandoned due to the lack of market demand, with farmers unable to afford the costs of maintaining the orchards, leading to the waste of agricultural resources. The drop in demand has caused many almond orchards to be abandoned. Many farmers can no longer afford to maintain the orchards due to high production costs and lack of profits from selling the product. When there is no market to absorb the almonds, the orchards are either left fallow or even uprooted to make way for crops with higher demand. This not only results in significant financial losses, but also affects the environment and land resources when almond-growing fields are not being utilized effectively. The abandonment of almond orchards also leads to job losses, as thousands of agricultural workers are left without employment due to the downsizing of production. Processors also face a shortage of raw materials, disrupting the supply chain and production. The result is a major blow to the U.S. agricultural economy, as both farmers and processors struggle to maintain operations. The effects of the overproduction issue are not limited to short-term financial losses. They also have long-term implications for the almond industry. As almond production continues to rise without a stable consumption market, the quality of the crops will begin to decline. Farmers will lack the motivation and financial means to properly care for almond orchards, leading to neglected trees, weaker plant health, and lower yields. When orchards are not properly maintained, the quality of the harvested almonds declines as well. This directly impacts the value of almonds in the market, causing prices to drop and farmers unable to cover their production costs. This creates a vicious cycle where quality decreases, demand falls, and ultimately, farmers face losses and are unable to sustain production. The overproduction of almonds and the decline in demand from international markets serve as a crucial lesson for the U.S. agricultural industry. To prevent this situation from recurring, the almond production sector must improve its ability to forecast demand and manage production more efficiently. Solutions such as developing new consumption markets, particularly in domestic markets, can help reduce dependence on international markets and create a more stable supply chain. Additionally, farmers need to adopt smarter farming practices, such as using technology to optimize yields and reduce production costs. The government can support this transition through agricultural insurance programs, subsidies for farmers to help them weather difficulties, and provide financial assistance to restore production. Building contingency strategies, including seeking alternative consumption outlets and developing value-added almond products, will help mitigate the negative effects of surplus production. Food waste in U.S. agriculture has increasingly become a serious issue, with far-reaching negative effects not only on farmers and processors, but also on the entire economy. This situation is not only affecting the agricultural supply chain, but also altering price structures and impacting industries related to food production. As a result, even though food is still available in the market, prices not only remain high but often rise, creating increased pressure on consumers and businesses. Food waste has led to a severe disruption in the U.S. agricultural supply chain. Farmers, processors, and exporters all bear significant losses. When crops cannot be harvested or consumed in time, farmers face massive financial setbacks. Products left in the fields or rotting in storage reduce supply and increase production costs. Investments in seeds, fertilizers, and labor become futile, as farmers cannot recover their investments. Moreover, food processors face significant challenges when they cannot receive adequate raw materials from farmers. Supply contracts are canceled or altered, leading to reduced production or the need to replace raw materials with imports, which drives up costs. In particular, exporters are unable to fulfill transactions as planned, resulting in lost revenue and a diminished ability to compete in international markets. Despite a large portion of food being wasted and going unsold, prices in the market not only fail to decrease, but often increase. This creates an economic paradox. When supply decreases, processors and distributors raise prices to compensate for the shortage of raw materials. Additionally, increased transportation and storage costs further raise product prices, putting consumers in a difficult position as they are forced to pay more for basic food items. The rising cost of food not only affects consumers, but also creates a vicious cycle in the economy. Small businesses and food manufacturers struggle to maintain profitability, leading to production cuts or closures, reducing market diversity and competition. While food remains available on store shelves, high prices make access to it a significant challenge, especially for low-income consumers. Food waste doesn't just cause direct damage to agriculture and food production. It also creates broader economic consequences. Industries related to agriculture, including transportation, food processing, retail, and consumer services, are all severely impacted by disruptions in the supply chain. Transport companies face higher shipping costs and cannot predict accurately how much product is needed, preventing them from optimizing operations and reducing costs. Retailers and supermarkets also struggle to keep prices stable as food costs soar, leading to decreased consumer purchasing power. When food prices become uncontrollable, related industries such as packaging also face difficulties as they cannot maintain stable production. As a result, the U.S. economy faces instability in maintaining jobs, workers' income, and the sustainable development of agriculture-related industries. The issue of food waste highlights significant weaknesses in the U.S. agricultural supply chain. To address this problem, a comprehensive strategy is needed from the government, businesses, and consumers. The government can promote policies that support the agricultural sector, including investing in food production, storage, and transportation technologies to reduce losses throughout the supply chain. Additionally, food processing industries need to improve demand forecasting and optimize production processes to avoid waste. Companies should also explore alternative raw materials or use leftover products post-harvest to create other products. Consumers need to change consumption habits, avoid purchasing excess food, and learn better food preservation methods to reduce waste. The waste of crops is not only a specific issue within agriculture, but also reflects the inefficiencies within the trade system, operational costs, and infrastructure of U.S. agriculture. From labor shortages, disruptions in transportation, to shortcomings in storage and preservation, all these factors contribute to increasing losses for farmers and harm to the economy. These issues are not just temporary setbacks, but are the consequences of a deeply struggling agricultural system that is having difficulty maintaining sustainable growth. When farmers are unable to continue production due to challenges related to costs, markets, and supply chains, the agricultural system becomes unstable and unreliable. Once farmers lose confidence in their ability to sustain production and maintain their livelihoods, they may eventually leave the farming profession, leading to a labor crisis in agriculture. This not only affects production, but also creates an unstable environment, causing disruptions in food supply for processors, distributors, and consumers alike. As a result, trust in the U.S. agricultural system weakens, which in turn diminishes competitiveness and increases dependence on international supply chains. Given the current struggles in agriculture, a big question remains. If the supply chain and trust in the system collapse, what will happen to American agriculture? These problems go beyond food supply shortages and could lead to price instability, crises in the food processing industry, and a decline in consumer confidence. To avoid these consequences, prompt intervention is needed from the government, businesses, and communities to rebuild trust and sustain a strong agricultural system. Don't forget to share this video to raise awareness about food waste and the existing problems in the U.S. agricultural system. We need to come together to discuss and find solutions to help the agricultural industry become more sustainable, improve the supply chain, and restore trust in the system. Join this conversation and share your creative ideas to help solve these issues.